WikiHow. How to entertain people. Entertaining people is an art. To truly entertain people, you don't need to juggle, tell knock-knock jokes, or do backflips. Though these things can work in small doses, the best thing you can do is to be attuned to what the crowd needs and to keep people interested in what you have to say. Whether you're entertaining guests in your home or just cracking people up at a bar, the most important thing is to have confidence that what you're saying is worth listening to, and to make people want to hear more. If you want to know how to entertain people, see Step 1 to get started. Method 1 of 3. Entertaining people anywhere. 1. Tell funny stories. It can be tricky to tell a story that can entertain a crowd and make people laugh. Some stories are hilarious if you tell them to one person in private, while others really can win over a diverse group of people. Do not tell a story that would embarrass your friend or family members. The key is to keep the story short enough to hold interest, but long enough to have entertaining details that leave people wanting more. Tell the story with charm and confidence, and, if you can pull it off, you can even reenact parts of the story or do impressions of the people involved. While you shouldn't spend all night trying to tell stories to entertain people, 1 or 2 stories per night can really do the trick. Here are some things to keep in mind. A story that lightly and playfully makes fun of someone you all know, whether it's a friend or a teacher, can crack people up, especially if you know how to do impressions. However, if your story is mean-spirited in nature, people will be naturally turned off. Read the audience as you're telling the story. If they're making eye contact, not whispering to each other or playing with their phones, or even gently nodding as you talk, then they're engaged and want more. But if they're shifting on their feet, looking at each other, or act like they're in a dentist's chair, then you should probably wrap up your story sooner than expected. Be animated as you tell your stories. While you don't have to walk back and forth across the room and gesture wildly like Dane Cook, you should stand upright, maintain positive body language, and gesture occasionally as you tell your story. Build suspense when you talk. People need a reason to get to the end of the story. If they feel like they already know what happened, then they won't want to hear the end. Instead of saying, "Let me tell you the story about the crazy ex-girlfriend who painted my car pink," you can say, "You'll never believe what my ex did to get revenge on me." Then, the audience will want to keep listening because they'll want to know what happened next. 2. Laugh at yourself. One important part of being entertaining is to be able to laugh at yourself. People who are natural entertainers can laugh at themselves because they have the confidence to know they're funny and don't take themselves too seriously. If you show that you're comfortable with having a joke at your own expense and that you're not too proud to know when a joke has fallen flat, then people will feel more open and at ease around you. And hey, one of the ways to entertain people is to make fun of yourself in a goofy, silly, or offbeat way. You can show off your dancing skills while knowing that you have 2 left feet. As long as you're laughing, other people will think it's funny. Having people laugh at you can also cause them to bond and to be brought closer together. This works especially well if you're trying to entertain 2 groups of friends that don't really know each other. They may not think they have a lot to talk about, at first, but they'll feel more at ease once they all tease you about how much you love your cat. This doesn't mean you have to be self-deprecating or down on yourself to entertain people. However, if you're comfortable enough with yourself to laugh at yourself, then it can help you keep people entertained. 3. Ask questions. You may not think that asking questions is very entertaining, but if you know which questions to ask and can keep a person engaged, then you can keep people interested because they'll be talking about their favorite topics themselves. As long as you act genuinely interested, and not like you're interrogating people, they'll be happy to open up about themselves. Here are some things you can ask them about: their pets, their hobbies, their favorite bands, their favorite movies, their least favorite TV shows, their favorite thing to do to relax. 4. Help people find a common bond. Another way to entertain people is to help them find a common bond. You may think that standing around with the people you're with is about as entertaining as watching paint dry until you find out that they are all avid fans of The Bachelor. You can try talking about movies, books, places you've lived or visited, favorite sports teams, or other subjects that are likely to start a lively discussion and see what people think about those subjects. Soon enough, people will have a more engaging, fun conversation because you've provided the topic. Sports teams are a good thing to talk about, because people are likely to have an opinion about them without feeling so maniacally devoted that they'll fight each other if they don't like the same teams. Avoid bringing up any controversial topics, such as abortion or gun control, or you're likely to start a lively discussion, but not one that will be very entertaining. 5. Let other people talk. You may think that the best way to be entertaining is to tell jokes, juggle oranges, do the moonwalk, or just do a million things to keep your audience engaged, but in reality, you have to take a break every once in a while to let someone else get a word in. If you're trying too hard or talking 90% of the time, then it's likely that people won't really be entertained. Your best bet is to try not to completely dominate any conversation, but to make a strong, entertaining impression when you do have a chance to talk. Make sure you're not dominating more than 50% of the conversation when you're talking to one person, and that you're not taking more than 1/3 of the time when you're with a group. You don't want to put too much pressure on yourself, and you don't want to wear on people, either. 6. Dance. Another way to entertain people is to show off some dance moves. Whether you're a pro or a total amateur, if you're willing to make a fool of yourself, then you can definitely be very entertaining when it comes to busting out the dance moves. The most important thing is that you have confidence and that you don't worry about looking like a goofball. People will be relieved and happy that you're putting yourself out there, not expecting you to be perfect. Here are some dance moves that you can practice before your big debut: the moonwalk, the helicopter, the robot, the worm, body pop, twerking. 7. Get their attention. If you want to be entertaining, then you have to know how to command attention. Though commanding attention is a skill that can take time to develop, there are a few things that you can do to make sure that the people you're trying to entertain are, well, actually entertained by you. Here's what you can do: speak in a well-modulated voice. Make eye contact when you speak. Project confidence by standing tall and not fidgeting. Be respectful to people so they listen to you. 8. If all else fails, go out and do stuff. If you feel as if there's nothing more to talk about, then finding an activity to do can help keep people entertained. Take your friends to an ice skating rink, the movies, or to a cafe. Being in a new environment where interesting things are happening stimulates the brain, which provokes thoughts and images that are entertaining to your friends. If you get the sense that people are getting bored or restless, sometimes the best thing you can do is to suggest that you switch locations. Go bowling, play live, or do something you haven't done since you were a kid. This can get people laughing and will keep them from taking themselves too seriously. Play a light game of basketball or volleyball. This will keep people entertained and active. Go out into nature. Taking a light hike or even walking around a lake at a local park can keep people engaged. Who says you're too old to go to the playground? Have a retro day on the swings, monkey bars, and merry-go-round with your friends. Method 2 of 3. Entertaining people at your party. 1. Make sure you don't run out of drinks. If you're throwing a party for grown-ups, then this is the number one most important rule to keep in mind as you plan to entertain people. Nothing makes a good party go south faster than when the guests realize that the beer and wine supply has run out. Alcohol is a social lubricant, and without it, guests are likely to feel a bit uncomfortable, or sometimes, even a little bored. Alcohol running out is also a sign that the party is over and that it's time to head home, and you don't want to give your guests that impression. When you're planning on how much booze to get, you should always get a little extra in case you have some unexpected last-minute guests or people stay later than you planned. If cost is really a factor, you can get booze at Costco or another place that lets you return it if you don't think you'll end up drinking it later. 2. Have enough food ready. When it comes to entertaining guests, you don't need to have the fanciest food available, unless you're throwing a dinner party. In most cases, just having enough pizza, snacks, burgers, or whatever the event calls for will more than do. You can have a potluck so everyone contributes something and so you don't have to worry about cooking or buying everything. In fact, the easier the food is to choose from, the better, because it won't distract your guests. Even if you're just throwing a party and there's no dinner component, it's nice to have a few snacks ready. You don't want your guests to go hungry, and plus, that food will help absorb the alcohol you're serving. 3. Put out a few conversational pieces. One way to get your guests talking is to have a few conversational pieces out so your guests can have something to talk about. It can be a goofy photo of you dressed up as a zebra so your guests can ask about it, a flower arrangement so exotic that people will have to ask where it came from, a new gadget you're excited about, or heck, even your pet kitty, Dexter, who is always the life of the party. Though this isn't mandatory to entertaining guests, having something around that will get the guests talking, laughing, or asking questions will definitely help keep people entertained. You can even leave some gossip magazines lying around. Though you want your guests talking instead of reading, someone can pick up a magazine and it can lead to the guests laughing, or swooning, over Justin Bieber together, and who doesn't want that? 4. Create mingling activities. It can be fun to have a few activities out that can help entertain your guests and keep the party from growing stale. Though many parties only need a few people who want to talk to each other and have fun, having a few games or activities can help people get into a fun-loving spirit and get to know each other a bit better. Here are some things that you can put out to help entertain your guests. Yenga. Cards Against Humanity. An old photo album. Video games. A record player. Dominoes. 5. Be a friendly host. Make sure that your guests know where to put their shoes, where to hang their coats, where to put the drinks they brought, and generally where everything in the house is located. You don't want a newcomer to feel lost or uncertain at your party. When a new guest comes in, ask if you can get him or her a drink, show him or her where the bathroom is, and just be friendly and helpful so your guest feels at home. You don't want to be pushy, but you should ask your guest if he wants a snack, water, or another beverage pretty soon after he walks in the door. Make sure you don't seem stressed out or worried about throwing a party. This vibe can ruin an evening, and you want your guests to feel like you want them to be there, not like they're causing a huge inconvenience. 6. Introduce people to each other. A big part of entertaining people is making sure that they all like each other and really get along. You want your guests to feel comfortable with each other, not like they don't know who the guy who has been standing near them is or where he's from. You can quickly introduce people and even say a few words about them so everyone knows how the guests are connected. If you're having a small party, with less than 10 people or so, then introducing everyone to each other can really help make the environment feel friendly and intimate. You can even take it a step further and help people start a conversation by pointing out that they have similar interests. You can say something like, "Jackie, have you met Eliza? She's a gymnast, too." You can also tell people how you're connected to the people you're introducing them to so they're oriented a bit better. You can say, "Mary, this is John, my friend from college. John, this is Mary. I've known her since 5th grade summer camp." 7. Don't clean up until people leave. One entertaining must is to make the guests feel welcome until the moment they step out the door. If you start putting away dishes or garbage or scrubbing counters in the middle of a party, then this will be telling your guests that you want them to leave and that they're causing a nuisance. Even if you're a neat freak or are just trying to save a bit of time, it's important to let the party happen and to clean later so your guests don't feel like they're causing a burden. Okay, so if it's really the end of the night and everyone is leaving and a few people offer to help clean up, then that's fine. You may not want to deal with that mess on your own. But the important thing is that you don't make people feel unwelcome by cleaning up every little empty beer glass half an hour after the party has started. 8. Consider having a theme. Though a theme is not mandatory to throwing a party or entertaining guests, it can help get people talking, laughing, and generally having a good time. If there's a natural holiday or occasion for a party, such as New Year's Eve, 4th of July, or Halloween, then you're all set, but you can also throw a party that is animal-themed, sports-themed, based on your favorite movie or TV, vampire-themed, or which really has whatever theme you think will get people talking, laughing, or even dressing up. Having a dress-up element to the night can make people naturally more inclined to talk to each other because they can talk about their outfits or what made them dress up a certain way. It can also lead to fun music or props around your place, which will also get the guests talking and laughing. Method 3 of 3. Entertaining guests at your home. 1. Be a good host. Being a good host is not a skill that comes naturally to everyone. A good host is able to be attentive to the needs of his or her guests without overwhelming them. You want to be able to anticipate your guests' needs without stepping on their toes too much. You should be friendly, welcoming, and helpful, and to make sure that your guests feel literally at home, without crowding you too much, of course. Here are some things you can do to be a good host. Take your guests' coats when they walk in and tell them where to put their shoes. Carry their luggage. Give your guests a quick tour so they know where the kitchen, bathroom, and everything else is located. Be accommodating. Give your guests a place to sleep, pillows, blankets, towels, or anything else they may need to comfortably stay at your home. While you don't want them to walk all over you, you also have elected to open up your home to them. 2. Make sure their needs are met. A big aspect of being a good host to guests at your home is to making sure their needs are met. Many guests may be too shy about telling you what they really want and need, and it's up to you to ask them so that they feel comfortable. While you don't want to constantly annoy them, you don't want to be so aloof that they're afraid of asking, either. Here are some things you can ask your guests to make sure their needs are met. Offer your guests a glass of water or a beverage. They may be too shy to ask for what they really need. If an old friend is coming to town and you both like splitting a bottle of wine now and again, then have one ready to go when your guest arrives. Make sure they don't go hungry. While you don't want to be pushy, you also should make sure that your guests are well fed. They may not admit that they are hungry at first, so make sure you have a few food options available for any mealtime. Keep a plate of snacks, such as trail mix, crackers, fruit, or anything else that isn't perishable out so your guests have something to munch on. Ask if they need towels, shampoo, or anything else for showering. Let them know what they can and cannot use. Prepare the right foods in advance. It never hurts to ask your guests what they like for breakfast, if they have any allergies, or if there's any snack they absolutely love before they stay with you, so you're prepared with something they like and don't get stuck running any grocery errands. 3. Take them to the go-to spots. If guests have come out of town to visit you, then you should probably show them around the neighborhood. You may not be a fan of the tourist spots in your hometown, or don't think there's much worth seeing, but if your guests came all the way out to visit you, then you should at least make an effort to show them around. Take a minute to think about the top destinations that people should see in your hometown, whether it's the Statue of Liberty or the famous Little Jazz Cafe on the other side of town. Make sure your guests see at least a few of these places so you can put your good hosting into practice. Okay, so if you live in Manhattan and don't feel like waiting in line for 3 hours to go up the Empire State Building, then you can at least guide your guests there and wait it out at a Starbucks next door until the deed is done. You don't want to leave them completely hanging, especially not at first. The top spots could be famous or quirky restaurants, landmarks, statues, unique stores, ocean views, or really anything your hometown is known for. Of course, the go-to spots don't just have to be tourist traps. Take your guests to your favorite parts of your home, even if you just go to your favorite bar or restaurant. Show them what you love about living where you live. 4. Don't forget to give them their privacy. Though it's important to be a good host, to offer up your home, and to ask your guests questions to get a sense of how they're feeling, it's also important to give them some space, especially if they are staying with you for a few days. You shouldn't barge in on their rooms or into the area where they're sleeping without knocking or announcing yourself, and you shouldn't plan to be around your guest 24/7, unless that's really what the other person wants. It can be a little claustrophobic to be a guest in another person's home, and you should be understanding of the fact that your guest may want to be left alone, at times. Many people need time to unwind, especially after a long day of travel or a long trip to look at landmarks or tourist sites. You should give your guests some time to decompress, even if you are really excited that they're with you. 5. Don't be too pushy. This goes along with giving your guests their space. You don't want to be the person who asks a question so many times that the person you're asking is forced to say yes. If your guest insists that he's really not hungry more than once, you can leave him alone and say that there's a lasagna waiting in the fridge if he wants it. You don't want your guests to feel like they have to say yes when they're not up for something just to please you. Your guests may have a certain idea about how they want to spend their visit with you. If you ask them to do something, like going to the pool or a water park, and they really don't seem into it, you shouldn't push it unless you really think it's what they do want and that they're saying no just because it's too much trouble. 6. Give them plans for stuff to do alone. If you want to entertain your guests, then you should also plan for taking a break from, well, entertaining. Unless your guests expect you to be around 24/7, provided that's what you want to do, you should come up with a list of things for them to do while you're at work, resting, or just doing your own thing. This could include places to grab lunch solo or a list of tourist attractions, such as museums or gardens, if you live in a place that's full of them. Being prepared for this in advance would save you from feeling like you have to be there every second of the day. If you can't come up with anything for your guest to do without you, you may have to hang out with him or her instead of getting some downtime. 7. Fill your home with things that can keep them entertained without your help. It can also help a lot to keep your home full of activities that your guests can do without you, so you don't feel compelled to entertain every waking second. If there are kids involved, you can have some video games, markers, and paper for drawing, or action figures available for them. If your guests are adults, you can have some gossip or more highbrow magazines around, a box set of a TV show, or an album of photos for your guests to look through. Having something that will do the entertaining for you can help you in a pinch when you need 30 minutes to fold laundry and can't think of anything for your guests to do. Having board games or other activities such as Twister or Monopoly around can also help you find something fun to do with your guests.